Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the TradeStation Masterclass. My name is Jesus Nava. I'm the Director of Client Training and Education for TradeStation Securities. Thank you for joining me today. Today is Tuesday. What is today? Today is May 21st. We're going to talk about strategy trading today, specifically about automating strategies that generate orders at the close of the market. Sometimes on the TradeStation technology, that may be a little bit tricky to generate an exit at the close of the market. We're going to talk about some of the technicalities and what happens when TradeStation generates such type of order. But before we jump into today's topic, which is strategy automation, let's go through some of the disclosures. Just keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of TradeStation. Also, that active trading is not suitable for everyone, and past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. All right, let me switch over here to my TradeStation platform and set the stage for an example. So we're going to talk about some examples here in TradeStation. We're going to use some of the built-in strategies that TradeStation provides. We may have to go into a little bit of easy language because, as you understand, anytime that we want to do anything that is custom, we need to dive into easy language a little bit. Otherwise, we have no way of customizing, the strategies and indicators that are part of the TradeStation platform. If this is your first time using easy language, it's totally fine. This is not a programming class, although we're going to teach you programming concepts. You don't necessarily have to become, a full-blown programmer to be able to edit easy language documents, which is what I do. I don't consider myself to be an expert on easy language or an easy language programmer. TradeStation has some easy language specialists, and they are going to be able to help you on the TradeStation forum. So anytime you have a question, or if you'd like a specialist to take a look at a piece of code that you've written, or maybe you're stuck, trying to figure out how to write something in easy language, that's where we can find a lot of help on the forums, and you can post questions there. And we have a team that is dedicated on a daily basis to support your questions that are coming through. So I do see a lot of familiar names here. So thank you guys for joining me today. Let's put a strategy on my chart. By the way, this is Spider on a 5-minute time frame. I think the concept that we're going to talk about today, which is closing a position at the close of the market using an automated strategy, it's simple to understand if we use this built-in strategy, which is a gap up or a gap down. But let's take a look at the one that's built in so you can see what happens. I'm going to go here to Studies, click on Add Strategy, and let's start off with a gap. In the list of strategies that comes supplied with the TradeStation platform, we have a gap up and we have a gap down. Let's go ahead and put those two strategies on the screen, gap up and gap down. Let me go ahead and click OK. Did anything trigger? Let's take a look. Okay, here's a gap up. I don't have a lot of historical data on this chart. That's why there's only one entry, but you can clearly see how the strategy is designed. As soon as it finds a gap inside of the chart, it will generate a long entry. And it'll do the same if it finds a gap down. It'll generate a short entry. So let me go ahead and load more historical data here. I'm going to load, this is the 5-minute chart. Let me load 6 months of data. Okay, so the strategy did generate a few trades here, if you can see. Usually the trades happen at the beginning of the day. You can see that right here. There's a short entry. There's a huge gap right here that happened back in April 24th. The open of April 25th, we see a drop of almost 7 points right here for S&P. This is SPY. Which is the S&P ETF. We see additional gaps, though. I'm not sure if you notice here, there's a gap up. Here's another gap up, and here's another gap up. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with strategies within TradeStation, but they are designed to only take one trade in one direction at a time. So what happened here is that you were already in a long trade. If everybody sees here the blue arrow that says market 500, the strategy identified this as a arrow that I'm pointing to, which is this one, this blue one. It's different than the blue arrow here on the right-hand side. Now, for a moment, I thought this looks like a strategy signal, but it's not. The blue arrow that you see right there at the bottom that says market 500 is just a historical entry that I did on the simulator. A lot of times when you put strategies on a chart, I do recommend that you turn off account orders and positions because the arrows are going to be very similar. And sometimes by looking at them, you may think that it's a strategy generated order when in fact, it's not. This is an order that I placed manually, historically, and it's just showing here on my screen. How do we disable that? Quickly, we can just right-click on that arrow and click on Disable Account Orders and Positions. And you can see that it removes that arrow and I still have my strategy in place. So let me go ahead and find another example that is not that one. So I apologize for that. So let me go back here a little bit more. We were looking at all these gap ups. Still, the concept that I was trying to explain applies. You know, we have these gaps that don't have an entry with them. So what happened? If I continue to scroll back, I'm going to see that the strategy at one point had generated a long entry. Everybody sees this gap up, and we have the strategy generating that trade up here. It's just following the rules. But on the subsequent gap ups, for example, right here, there's a gap up. It's not as evident as the other ones, but here's a gap up. We have another one right here. Let me continue to scroll up. We have gap up, and then until we get the gap down. So what I was trying to explain is that, yeah, the strategy is going to take one trade in one direction at a time. So it's already in a long trade, and that's the reason why it doesn't take the additional ones. Let's go ahead and do something here. One thing that I didn't point out is that this strategy is not only looking at beginning of day gaps. Let me see if I find an example of a gap that did not happen at the beginning of the day. And most of them do happen at the beginning of the day, you know, and the reason for that is because Spider is such an active trading instrument that throughout the day, it's very rare to see a gap. There must have happened something on Spider that pushed the price in the middle of the day and generated a gap. For example, right here, there's a gap down, and you can see that it's right in the middle of the day. If we take a look at when the trade occurred, it happened at 1:50 p.m. Eastern time, so almost at noon. Why did it happen? I'm not sure what happened exactly there, but there's a gap. Let me zoom in so you can see where the gap shows. It's barely a gap. You see, we see the closing price on the prior bar, and then it opened a little bit lower. So there is a gap. If you look at the difference between the two prices, once the criteria is true, then it generates an order for the next bar. But you can see that that particular, what happened here? Hold on. Okay, you can see that that particular order happened intraday. Now, if you want to design a strategy that only looks at, you know, gaps that happen at the beginning of the day, that is something that needs to be created or edited. Let me go into the code of this strategy just to give you an example. I'm going to right click and go to edit easy language. Let's take a look at the long entry. This will open up the development environment for me. By the way, if this is your first time looking at easy language, this is what controls everything about the strategy. And you can see the condition right here. If the low is greater than the high one bar ago, that's a historical reference. Look at the prior bar. So if the low of the current bar is greater than the high of the prior bar, then buy next bar at market. So this is what a gap up means. And of course, that condition can happen any time of the day. If you wanted this to only look at the beginning of the day, you may have to add some timing conditions, like look at the time. If the one thing that I can do, I'm not going to modify the original code, but just for you, if you're thinking about different ways in which you can use time so that a strategy only looks at the beginning of the day, one thing that you can do is if date does not equal, this is date does not equal the date 1 bar ago, then begin, not being, begin. There we go. And then we can just add an end right here. By doing this, you're looking for the date to not be equal to the date the prior bar. What does that mean? Well, on a chart, let me just look at a chart because that'll make more sense. In any day that of the day, that's the only bar when, if you compare the date of 1 bar, the first bar of the day, for example, over here, the bar that I'm on right now, I'm on the very first bar of January 29th. You can see how the time is right there on the top left corner, 9:35. But if I go 1 bar back, you can see how the date is January 26th. So this is over the weekend. That happens just on 1 bar where the date is not equal the prior one. And that is exactly the precise point where that's the beginning of the day. So if you want your strategy conditions to only be evaluated on that very first bar, then you can use syntax such as this: if the date does not equal the date 1 bar ago. Of course, this only applies to stocks or any security that opens and closes in the same day. If you're trading futures, for example, futures is kind of the exception here because futures or some futures, they trade overnight. And the bar which date is not equal the prior date happens at midnight and not necessarily at the open of the day. Let me go back here to my chart and explain a little bit more clear. Let me go to ESH M24. Oh, this is, yeah, ESM 24. I believe this is still trading. Yes, it hasn't expired or hasn't rolled over, I don't think. But you can see that the beginning of the session, of today's session, happened yesterday at 1600 or 4 p.m. And the session goes overnight, and it's not until this bar right here. There we go. See, this bar is 0000. That's midnight. The date is May 21st, and the date before that is May 20th. So if we use the same syntax, it would be evaluated right here, not at the beginning of the session. So that's why I'm saying that futures, if you're trading futures, that syntax would not give you the beginning of the session, will give you midnight, because that's where the date changes, right? So let's go back here to the syntax. If you wanted to use something like this for futures, you'd have to use something different. And I'm going to use something like if time equals session first bar time, then begin. When you use a function like this, this is a function, and I know it's a function because it turns up purple when I type it in. The TradeStation has this color syntax. Every time you type in something that it recognizes, it changes the color so that you have a visual indication that you've typed it in correctly. Anything that is blue is reserved, so it has a particular meaning in the language, and anything that is purple, like session first bar time, is a function. And session first bar time automatically knows what the time is of that very first bar of the day. And if the time of the bar matches that time, then the strategy know that is exactly on the very first bar of the session. So this syntax applies to both stocks and futures, and you can use it anytime. And it finds what the first bar of the bar, what the first bar of the chart is. So use whichever one you want to use. So I did say that I did not want to make modifications to the original code here. I just wanted to talk you through some of the syntax when using time. So let me go ahead and undo my changes until I'm back to the original. I'm doing Control-Z on my keyboard, and you can see that the development environment keeps a record of, I believe it's 100 changes on your code. So I can do Control Z until I'm back on the original easy language code. If I really wanted to have the changes stick to my code, I would have preferred to create a copy and then make my modifications. But since this is not what I wanted to do, I just wanted to give you an example that you can use later. Okay. Octavio, I see your question about where do you specify the quantity to execute? TradeStation's strategy engine has a default quantity of 100 market. It uses the default. Now, if you say buy 150 shares, next bar at market, then yes, the strategy this will override what the default is, which is 100, because now you are putting in a specific quantity for your trade. Now, let me show you where you can change the default, and that is something that it's part of the strategy settings. Let me go back here to my TradeStation platform. My internet is cutting out, so I apologize if my voice is going in and out. We're going to have a recording to this. Hopefully, well, most likely the recording will also have those in and outs, but hopefully it'll be better than, the live presentation. What I was going to show you is, what were we talking about? Oh, where the default quantities are. If I go to studies and I go to edit strategies, and I have my two strategies that I inserted earlier. If you go to properties for all, then you have the trade size right here. Trade size, well, mine is set to 1. I'm not sure why, but the default quantity here should be 100. So let me just change it to 100. Oh, I know why, because I switched it to a futures. If you look at my symbol in the top left corner here, it says ESM24. And when you switch it to futures, the default strategy amount is 1 contract. And that's why it was there. That's why I had a 1 in there. Let me cancel out of this and click OK and switch over to SPY. Once I switch over to SPY and I go back to studies and edit strategies and click on properties for all, you see how the default is 100 shares. So that's where you can set the default if you wanted to. And if you want to use a particular quantity, depending on the security that you're trading or testing, then you can put it inside your code as a way to have, different strategies for different securities. One thing that I wanted to add here, though, this is, let's see, let me see if we have a strategy here. Add strategy. Let me go here. It says exit on close, I think. No, close. Okay, here it is. Close at end of day. This is a strategy that is designed and built into the TradeStation platform that will generate a closing transaction at the close of the day. Hence the name, close at end of day. If I put it on my chart, you'll see that whenever there is a gap up trade following the rules that we put into our chart, that trade is going to be exited at the end of the day. If I go to the very last bar, you're going to see that on this one, which is the 1600 bar, it sold 100 shares at 529.77. The only problem is that if you were to automate this strategy, there's a very big problem. This strategy that we just put into the chart is very good at marking where the close or the exit of that strategy is, because it does it automatically. It finds the close of the day and it puts a marker as if the strategy had generated an exit. And you're going to see that every single day where the strategy generates an entry, it generates an exit at the very end of the day. The only problem with the strategy is that, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but strategies on the TradeStation platform, they calculate on the close of the bar. So it's not until the close of that particular bar that the strategy says, I'm at the close of the day, I should generate an exit. And historically, it does it very nicely because it puts a marker on the close of the bar. But in reality, if it happens in real time with live market data, when the market closes and this order is generated, what happens? Well, there's no market for the order to be received at. I mean, the markets are closed. If there is a post-market activity for the security that you're trading. In this case, I'm looking at SPY. There is definitely some post-market activity for Spider. If there is the post-market, that exit would be generated as a testing strategies you need to be aware of. Let me go over here to my PowerPoint just to indicate a few things, because I think I've gone ahead explaining a few things that are part of the PowerPoint. And by the way, this PowerPoint is made available to everyone here in the form of a PDF. I'm going to share that link with everyone right here in the chat. So that PDF should download the PDF directly into your downloads folder. Set exit on close. Set exit on close is a reserved word. It's a built-in stop that can be used to place an exit order to close all shares or contracts in an open, long, or short position at the end of the session. It's pretty cool because you can interject this set exit on close in any of your strategies. Let's say you have a full-blown strategy that calculates entries and it calculates long trades and short trades. And you can just type in set exit on close and it automatically generates a magical close at the end of the day. Of course, for historical purposes only, it doesn't work in automation. If I go back here to my chart and I right click on that end of day exit, I'm going to go to edit easy language and I'm going to open up close at end of day. And we have all this green text, which is notations, but I want to focus on this piece right here. Set exit on close. This is exactly what the reserved word in easy language is to generate that exit. That's all you need. Set exit on close and then a semicolon at the very end. It's tricky though. Looks at the session end time specified in the chart properties. It's used for historical back testing. I think we've got that very well established. Generates a market order on the bar, close event on the last bar for the session. Any interval, doesn't matter. And it just generates that close at the end of the day. Now, during automation, a few things we need to be aware of. In an automated strategy, placing real-world orders, set exit on close generates a limit order into the post-market trading session if one exists. Otherwise, a market order is generated for the open of the next regular session. It's very important that we remember that, because we may think that, well, if the markets are closed, what's going to happen is that the strategy generates the order, it sees that the markets are closed, and then it's just going to cancel my order or reject my order. It doesn't do that. It does two things. It generates or it turns your market order into a limit order if there is a post market. And if it doesn't find one, it'll just queue your order for the next day. So it'll say, oh, the markets are closed. I'm going to hold on to my market order. And when the market opens next day, as soon as you have that opening tick, it'll send a market order to get you out of the trade, which may not be what you are expecting. You know, if you're expecting an end or an exit at the close of the day, you don't want, you know, the strategy to leave your position open and close it at the opening of the next day. That's against everything that the strategy was designed to do. So these are things that you have to be aware of in order to use an exit on close, or making sure that you don't have any open positions overnight. For whatever reason, maybe you're using margin. Yeah, you don't want to overextend yourself using margin overnight. Or if you have a futures contract and you're using day trade rate, you know, you cannot leave your position open overnight because you don't have enough cash balance to support that position. If that's the case, you know, it's important for you to have a strategy that gets you out of a trade before the end of the day. And of course, we need to talk about how to do that. Perfect. The session's recorded. You know, all my masterclass sessions that are based on strategy trading, easy language, and technical analysis, they are all saved. You can watch the recording on YouTube, or you can go to the TradeStation platform. Let me show you where that is. so you know where the recordings are. Let me go here to my TradeStation. You can access an app called Video Station. So let me go to apps, open up Video Station. You can see where or how the icon or what the icon looks like. It has a little graduation hat with a little chart. It's called Video Station. If I click on it, it opens up an application that loads a web-based. This is a web-based application. Let me go ahead and see if I can. When we upload a video on YouTube, we are dropping that video recording into a playlist. And Video Station is an application that reads the playlists that we have created on YouTube. Many times I find that looking for playlists on the TradeStation YouTube channel may be a little bit cumbersome. So this application has menus right here at the top that simplify the process. So if I go here to the masterclass and I go here to strategy elements, this would be the place where my strategy class would be. These are the most recent ones that have a blue color to them. You know, the black color is the color we used in the past, and you have those older presentations there. But here's the most recent presentation, which is, you know, the truth about backtesting strategies on price-based charts. So anytime we do a strategy trading class, we'll just drop it in here, and you can find it here as well. And you can play it from here too. If you click on any of these little thumbnails, it opens up a floating playback, and you can also, you know, just click directly from here to watch on YouTube or watch it from here. So yes, look for the videos from within the TradeStation platform. It'll be convenient if you are already there. Let's go back here to my PowerPoint. We were talking about set exit on close. By default, it uses the regular closing session time specified by the session settings on the chart. So here's the tricky part. In order to close a position at the end of the current session today, you must create a custom session that will force set exit on close to close at an open position a few minutes before the actual session close. That's sort of a mouthful, but I'm going to try to, you know, dissect it and do it together so that you know what to do if you're facing this predicament where you're trying to make the strategy generate an exit so that it closes your position before it's already closed. You know, if it does it after the markets are closed, of course your order is going to have a totally different behavior. So how do we control that? Here we make mention of a custom session. Custom session is important because if you think about it, you know, the strategy is going to follow the sessions that are in the chart. And the strategy sees that the sessions ends at 4 p.m. The stock market closes at 4 p.m. If your session says that the end of the session is 4 p.m., then it'll just react to it and say, okay, I'm going to generate an order at 4 p.m. If you create a session that says, we're not going to use 4 p.m., we're going to use 3 p.m. or 3:57 p.m. Let's say 3:57 p.m., which is 3 minutes before 4, so that when the strategy generates this exit, it has plenty of time to still exit or close out your position. It's a kind of tricking the strategy into thinking, hey, it's the close of the session, I need to generate an exit, but it's not quite the time when the market closes. You still have a little bit of wiggle room to send that order and get executed and get out of your position. So the question is now, how do we create this custom session so that the strategy can follow it and the strategy can generate this exit without being stopped or without being, you know, changed into a limit order on the post market or being held until the following day, which is even worse? So how do we make that? Let's go back here to my TradeStation. And we're going to stick to the same strategy. And you're going to see that it's going to behave exactly the same, but with the caveat of changing the ending time of the session. I'm going to double click on one of the candles. Doesn't matter which one you double click. This is my shortcut to accessing customized symbol. If you've been to my classes, I'm a fan of shortcuts. Double clicking on items that I want to customize is how I get to these dialogues. I could have gone to data, edit symbol, and gone to the same place. But I'd rather, just double click on any of the candles and it takes me there directly. And I'm going to go here to the properties, which is where we find sessions. Everybody see session right there? It's set to the regular session. I'm going to click here on the ellipsis and I'm going to use a custom session. Custom session allows you to click on this drop down and we have built-in custom sessions that you can select, but I'm going to create my own one. So what do? I'm going to create a session. So I'm going to click on the create button. This session is going to be called 3 minutes before stock close. So I know that it's stock and not futures. So 3 minutes before stock close. Does that make sense? So 3 minutes before the stock market close. I'm going to click on add here. And add allows you to create what your first session is going to be. First session meaning the first session of the week. Think of it as this is going to make you specify what the times are from Monday to Monday, if you consider that Monday through Sunday for each one of the days. So this is my session 1. Doesn't matter, what name you provided. We're just gonna copy that into the multiple days. If the times that you're going to be specifying are the same for every single trading day, then I'm going to show you how you can copy that over to the other days. So session 1, my session for stocks starts on a Monday, and I'm going to start this at 9:30 a.m. So the start time doesn't change. I'm going to use the regular start time of the market. What I am going to do is I'm going to say on Monday, on that same Monday, I'm going to close the market at 3:57 and change the AM to PM by just pressing the P on the keyboard. So that's our custom session. The session begins at 9:30 in the morning. It ends at 3:57 p.m. Eastern time. One important step that you cannot overlook or forget to do is check this box that says use this session as the end of trading day marker, also for set exit on close keyword. This is exactly why we have this checkbox here, is for the set exit on close to work, especially for this reason. So please do not forget to check this. Otherwise, you're not linking the strategy to your new end of day closing time. So this is what's telling the easy language or the strategy engine, we have a new closing time. Let's use the end of this session for the set exit on close. Does that make sense? One thing to keep in mind also is that the times that you put in here are based on exchange time. Session times are based on exchange time. So even if you are on the Pacific coast, I'm on Central. If you're in Mountain Time, think about where the security trades and enter the times as if you were on that exchange's time zone. TradeStation will do the math for you and it'll convert the TradeStation chart to your own custom time. But when entering the times here, make sure that you're using the exchange time. All right, I'm just going to click OK. Notice that I have my session 1 right there at the top. I can double check my times. The end time at 3:57, and we have a check mark here for SEOC. SEOC stands for set exit on close, precisely the reserved word that we're using in our easy language. And all we need to do is click on this button that says add Monday through Friday. Of course, you can continue to click on add and repeat this, 4 additional times for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But I can just click on this button right here and it'll do it automatically for me. Notice how the session names are all session 1. From Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we have exactly the same times, 9:30 to 3:57 p.m. And all the days are set to set exit on close. Doesn't get any easier than this, right? We can see a preview of what that session looks like. I'm just going to click OK. Notice the drop down right here is set to the 3 minutes before stock close. We can double check the times down here one more time and then just click OK. Now, I see the session in there and I just click on OK. The strategy recalculates with the new session that I supplied. However, you can see how the trades did not change. Still, I have a gap up and a gap down entry that gets exited at the close of the day. I want to point out something to you. Let me go here to the times here. This is something that I've explained in my prior classes as well. When you look at the candlestick of every chart, every candle is going to be time stamped based on the time frame of the chart. So for example, I have a 5-minute chart of spider right here. So the opening of the day, or the time of that very first bar, is not going to be 9:30, it's going to be 9:35, because the timestamp is going to be the closing time of that candle. So if I put my cursor on the background, I'm going to click and hold so I can get this data tips window, and I put my vertical axis on that very first bar, you can see the time right there on the top left corner. It says 9:35 for this day, which is May 15th, 9:35, closing time of the bar. And you're going to see that every single timestamp after that is at 5-minute intervals until we get to this last one. This is the 15:55. This is the 3:55 p.m. candlestick. We're 5 minutes before the close of the market. Take a look at the time of the last candlestick of the day. I'm going to go over here 1 bar over to the right. There we go. Take a look at the time. It says 15:57. So it's using the time that we specified as the closing time of this candle. So the strategy is going to see that. It's going to see the custom time at 3:57 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to generate that exit as if the day had closed, as if the market had closed, when in reality there's still 3 minutes before it closes. But for testing purposes and for strategy automation, this is the way that we can make sure that we have that exit generated before the market closes. Does that make sense? I believe this is the easiest way for you to modify the strategy so that it takes into account that, of course, one of the things that you lose when you do this, and this is something that you have to be aware of, one of the things that you lose is the activity or the trading prices that happen from 3:57 to 4. So you are removing 3 minutes of trading activity from the charts. You're not going to be able to see it. You may be able to see it up here, when you see the last traded price. This data up here will continue to trade, but on the chart, the candlestick will stop updating and you won't see anymore. So that's one of the things that you may not like. One of the things that you need to be aware of, because theoretically we're forcing the chart to truncate the data activity at 3:57 when the market continues to be open. All right. In the PowerPoint that I have here, I have a few links that link to the forums. I think I've provided this before. It provides you with different ways of making a strategy work when using an exit at close. For example, the first one, you have exiting at a preset time. That's something you can do on a strategy. You can also exit a number of bars before the end of the session. You can also exit at or before the close using market order or limit order. We can convert a limit order to a market order using strategy automation. We have some discussion topics for that. So yes, there are different ways that you can make the strategy work if you want to generate a close or an exit at the close of the market. The one that I showed you today is the easiest one, but if you want to learn more about this, I'm going to provide you with all these links that you can click on. Of course, you have to be a member of the forums in order to see them. Just keep that in mind. But the PDF that I shared with everyone here in the chat has all these links for you to discuss. So these are just different ways in which you can customize the end of this regular session. One of the links here, I'm not sure if it's this last one, but one of these links will provide custom code. Let me pull it up here on my screen so you can take a look. Let me see. I think I've been logged out because of inactivity. But let me go ahead and click on this one more time. This is this one right here. Exit minutes or seconds before the session end using intrabar order generation. Let me just click there. That'll just open up my forums. Let me see if I can bring it in here so you can see it. There you go. Okay, here's the post. You can see that the post is from April 9th, 2005. So we're talking about a post that is 19 years old. And of course, Easy Language hasn't changed much since then. There's a lot of enhancements, or there's been a lot of enhancements to Easy Language, but the raw or the core Easy Language hasn't changed. You can see that this is for TradeStation 8.1, which is a version of TradeStation that doesn't even exist anymore. We are on TradeStation 10 at the moment. But this is good information about how you can configure a strategy to work with an exit generated at the close of the market. Most of the time, you're going to get an ELD. Everybody sees the link right here. This is an ELD that you can download into your TradeStation. And of course, you can continue on reading the discussion. Many of these pages are going to be rather newer than when the post started. And if I scroll all the way down, you can see that there's 4 pages of posts. I'm not sure what the newest post is, but if I go to the 4th page, you can see that somebody posted here a comment on 2011, and they just said interesting. But what I wanted to say, everyone, is that you can come here to the forums, click on these links that have an ELD extension, and this will download this ELD file into your computer. You can click on the download file. This is a function and a strategy. The function is called the early close, and the strategy is called the EOD exit. Let me click on finish and say yes to all. That EOD exit is something custom. It's not part of the TradeStation platform. It's provided in the community. But if I were to remove my end of day exit, let me go ahead and remove strategy. I'll remove the close at end of day. There we go. Now we don't have an exit. Let's go here to studies and add strategy. The name of the strategy that I just imported is this one right here, end of day exit. I think I had it there already and it created a copy of it, end of day exit. I'm going to click OK. So this one uses a global variable. Just a little bit more complicated than what I expected. Let me see if the other one is the one that doesn't use a global variable. Let me go to add strategy. I should have read on this particular strategy a little bit more before I used it as an example. Yeah, this one is also using a global variable. So yes, if we go back here to the post, don't know if it mentions where the DLL is, but wanted to show you how you can get stuff from the Easy Language forums into your own TradeStation. Yeah, this was a bad example, and I apologize for using it. I don't see a mention here for DLL. If anybody has used this before and you know how it works, then but a lot of the posts that you find here are posted by other TradeStation users that have become experts at Easy Language and provide solutions that you may find that help you as well. So make sure that you explore all the things that we're making available to you so that you can utilize them on your TradeStation. All right, guys, this is my class for today. Wanted to give you a little bit of insight on how to create a custom session, and also how some of the things that you have to be aware of when trying to generate an exit at the close of the market, especially when you're automating strategies. So thank you for joining me today. We do easy language classes and strategy trading classes and technical analysis classes every Tuesday. You're welcome to join us every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. All sessions are recorded, and you can always find archives on the Video Station app. Tomorrow, we're going to do our Getting Started class. We're going to showcase our mobile apps. If you haven't registered for tomorrow's class, it's at 11 a.m. Eastern. And if you're new to TradeStation, this is just going to be an overview of what the mobile app is. Okay, thank you for joining me today. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I'll see you next time. Great having you.